Red Riding Hood, told by Meg Ryan, with music by Art Landy.
Red was her favorite color, even though her hair was a deep red and her cheeks most often a cherry red. Her mother tried to convince her to wear other colors, but red it was, even to the name her friends called her, Red. Her real name, truth to tell, was Millicent, but no one ever called her that, and neither shall we. Red was especially close to her grandmother, who lived a few miles away through a forest, lush and deep and dense. Granny was devoted to Red and, as old as she was, visited often. Granny delighted in bringing Red gifts she had made, mittens and slippers and sweaters to wear, cookies and muffins and puddings to eat. But of all these gifts, Red's favorite was the hooded cape of warm wool woven by her grandmother. Needless to say, the cape was as red as a blushing rose. One autumn day, Red's mother told her that Granny was ill, too weak to walk through the woods alone. "I've readied a basket with bread and cakes for you to take to dear Granny," said her mother. "Go there directly, don't stray from the path, and be home before dark." Red was always in bed by dusk, so it never occurred to her to be by herself in the woods at night. She ran to get her hooded cape and returned to her mother. "Remember what I've said," her mother went on. "Straight to Granny's, no delay. And mind your manners while you're there." "I will, Mother," Red replied. Her thoughts strayed to her ailing grandmother and to the woods she had never been through alone. Then off she went, wrapped in her red cape. On the bridge at the edge of town, she met the village woodsman.
"Where does the road take you, little Red?"
"To Granny's with food to make her well."
"Take care you don't leave the path," he warned. "Danger is lurking behind every leaf."
Red nodded and smiled, staring ahead at the towering trees, but not really hearing the woodsman's warnings. Before he could continue, though, she was skipping along the path and into the woods. The woodsman watched her go and wished her well. Deeper into the woods Red walked, marveling at the magnificent foliage and breathing in the cool, damp air that surrounded her. And always she stayed on the path. Rounding a bend, she came upon a sharp-looking fellow leaning against a tree. He fairly glowed with his silver fur coat and his dark, gleaming eyes. He was a wolf, and he had been watching her for some time. Now, Red had never met a wolf before, nor even heard of one. "How handsome he is," Red thought, trying not to stare. The wolf looked her over with a steady gaze that tickled her and terrified her all at once.
"What a beautiful cape," purred the wolf.
"Blood red, my favorite shade," he smiled. "And what a beautiful girl wearing it." Red blushed so deeply that it was hard to tell where she left off and her cape began.
"Have we met before?"
asked the wolf.
"I think not.
I surely will remember such a savory rosebud, one with such delicious taste in clothes. The wolf smiled again. Red smiled back. Thank you, sir, she whispered and curtsied as her mother had taught her. What is in your basket? He inquired. Bread and cakes to make my granny well. Delicious, smiled the wolf. But what a long trip for such a tender tulip. Oh, no, Red protested. Granny's house is just past the cypress grove. The wolf could barely curb his appetite. He was tempted to wolf her down right there, but then he thought to himself, why settle for a single course? Why not both? First, a bit of dried granny aged on the bone, and then this apple dumpling for dessert. So he said aloud to her, You'd best hurry along then. Granny craves a crust of bread and, he hesitated, yearns for your yummy wildflowers. The color drained from Red's cheeks, though not from her cape. But I have no wildflowers. No what? Choked the wolf. Red shook her head. He paused. Perhaps she'll be too tasteful to notice. A tear welled up in Red's eye. Now, my dumpling, there's no need for that, comforted the wolf. Look around you, wildflowers! Wildflowers everywhere, and, he confided, the farther from the path you go, the more succulent the buds. Oh, thank you, sir, Red said. Whatever succulent was, Granny would certainly like it. So off the path she stepped, plucking flower after flower, all the while straying farther into the woods. Farther from the path. The wolf ran straight to Granny's house and knocked on the door. Who is it? Rasped Granny, unable to pull herself out of bed. Taking a deep breath and putting on his most innocent girlish voice, the wolf replied, It's Red, Granny. I brought you luscious bread and cakes to make you well. Do you have a cold, my dear? Asked Granny. You sound so hoarse. The wolf coughed delicately. Will you let me in? He asked. Just lift the latch and let yourself in, my dear. Lift the latch he did, and in one bound he leapt on Granny, lapped her up, and licked his lips.